Maximilian Max Sterling III had always believed that the ocean was nothing more than a convenient dumping ground for his industrial ambitions. Standing 6'3", with a perpetual scowl carved into his weathered face, he ruled his petroleum empire from the penthouse of Sterling Industries like some modern-day Poseidon, except, instead of commanding the seas, he was busy destroying them. "Gentlemen," Max bellowed at his board of directors, his expansive Italian suit barely containing his ego. "Our newest platform, Profit's Pride, is extracting more oil than ever before. The environmentalists can cry into their organic kale smoothies all they want. We're making bank." The boardroom erupted in sycophantic applause. Max's latest deep-sea drilling operation had been violating every environmental protection imaginable, but his lawyers were as slippery as the crude oil coating the nearby coral reefs. What Max didn't know was that far beneath the waves, an ancient consciousness had been watching. Thalassa, the sea goddess, had endured centuries of human folly. But this arrogant mortal had finally pushed her divine patience past its breaking point. That evening, Max stood on the deck of his luxury yacht, Greed's Glory, admiring his latest drilling platform, silhouetted against the sunset. The massive structure rose from the ocean like a steel monument to capitalism, its lights twinkling against the darkening sky. "Perfect," he muttered, taking a swig of his $500 per bottle whiskey. "Just absolutely purr." The sea around his yacht began to glow with an ethereal blue-green light. The water itself seemed to rise, forming into the magnificent shape of a woman with flowing hair that cascaded like waterfalls and eyes that sparkled like starlight on ocean waves. "Maximilian Sterling," the lass's voice boomed across the water like thunder. "Your greed has poisoned my domain for the last time." Max nearly dropped his whiskey. "What? Who are you? Some kind of hologram? Henderson, is this one of your stupid pranks?" The goddess's laughter was like waves crashing against cliffs. "I am Thalassa, guardian of the seas. You have so carelessly destroyed. You have taken my ocean's lifeblood and replaced it with poison. Now, you shall experience what it means to depend on the waters you have defiled. Listen, Lady Water Lady Sure, we can work out some kind of deal. I've got excellent lawyers. And silence." The ocean itself seemed to pulse with power. "You shall live among the creatures you have displaced. Breathe the waters you have polluted, and learn what it truly means to be at the mercy of the sea." Thalassa raised her hands, and tendrils of glowing seawater swirled around Max like liquid light. "But," she continued with a mischievous smile that would have made a dolphin jealous, "since you have always acted like such a diva, perhaps it's time you looked the part." "Wait, what do you mean by a—"
The transformation hit Max like a tsunami of cosmic irony.
His expensive suit dissolved as his body began to change in ways that defied every law of physics he'd ever ignored in his environmental impact reports. His legs fused together, his skin taking on a shimmering, iridescent quality as scales emerged like nature's own designer fashion. But the real shock came when Max looked down at her new body. Where once stood a gruff oil baron, now floated a stunning mermaid with long, flowing hair, the color of sea foam and curves, that would make a siren weep with envy. "What did you do to me?" Max shrieked, though even his voice had changed, now melodic and distinctly feminine. "I thought you'd appreciate the liquid assets." Thalassa giggled, clearly pleased with her own wordplay. "Consider it a hostile takeover of your previous form." Max now? Maxine apparently tried to swim toward the yacht, but found herself moving with Anne Graysheedy, never possessed on land. "Change me back. I have shareholders to disappoint and ecosystems to destroy." "Oh, but you're going to love your new position," Thalassa said with mock sincerity. "You're now the official marine environmental specialist for the very waters you've been polluting. Think of it as a very permanent internship." As the goddess began to fade back into the waves, her parting words echoed across the ocean. "Don't worry about your companies, dear. I'm sure they'll flounder without you. But hey, at least now you'll finally understand the phrase sleeping with the fishes." And with that, Thalassa disappeared, leaving Maxine floating alone in the middle of the ocean, trying to process her new reality. The first few days were, to put it mildly, A disaster. Maxine kept trying to use her new tail like legs, resulting in some very undignified underwater tumbling. She'd attempt to give orders to passing fish, only to remember she no longer owned a drilling platform, she lived under one. "Excuse me, Mr. Tuna," she called to a particularly large fish swimming by. "I don't suppose you know anything about maritime law. I'm pretty sure what happened to me violates several international treaties." The tuna just stared at her with its big, unblinking eyes before swimming away. Apparently, her legendary negotiation skills didn't translate to fish speak. It was on her third day of being a mermaid that Maxine made a horrifying discovery. Swimming near one of her own oil platforms, she witnessed firsthand the environmental devastation her company had caused. The coral reefs were bleached white like underwater graveyards, and the few fish that remained looked as depressed as her quarterly earnings reports used to make environmental activists. "Oh," she whispered, watching a sea turtle struggle through an oil slick that her platform had created just last week. "Oh no." For the first time in her life or afterlife, or whatever this was, Maxine felt something that wasn't anger or greed. It might have been ... guilt. The emotion was so foreign that she wasn't entirely sure. A small school of fish swam past, and one of them, a bright yellow tang actually, stopped to look at her with what she could swear was accusation in its tiny black eyes. "Don't look at me like that," Maxine protested. "I didn't know it was this bad down here." The environmental impact reports always made it sound like you guys were having a pool party. The tang just blew a single, judgmental bubble and swam away. As the weeks passed, Maxine found herself settling into an unexpected routine. She'd spend her mornings trying to clean oil off sea creatures, with limited success given her lack of opposable thumbs. Her afternoons exploring the underwater world she'd never bothered to consider, and her evenings floating near her former drilling platforms, wondering if the irony was supposed to be this heavy. "Well," she said to a passing dolphin one evening, watching the sunset filter through the water above, "I always said I'd do anything for my business." "I just never expected it to include becoming a fish." The dolphin chittered what sounded suspiciously like laughter. "Very funny," Maxine replied dryly. "For the record, I'm technically a mammal now too, so show some solidarity."
Perhaps the lass's curse wasn't entirely without mercy after all.
Maxine was beginning to understand her new world in ways she never could have from the deck of a yacht. And who knows? Maybe being the ocean's most reluctant environmental activist would turn out to be the most important merger of her career, though she still missed having pockets for her phone. Some adjustments,
It seemed, would take longer than others.